if it helps avoid frustration and helps get things done timely and makes for a successful project. Uh, Before I get started with the agenda for today, I'd like to turn it over to Drew Thomas with the Integration Office, which is somebody else that works very hard to make sure these NEUP awards are successful. Just for a few words before we get started. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. I've just got a couple of items that I want to talk about really quickly, building off of what Jeremy said, and then just making sure that we that we focus here on reporting today. So first off, we are making an increased effort here as part of the NEUP team to elevate the engagement that we have with principal investigators and with our program sponsors. And so over the next 18 months to 2 years, we are planning on making sure that this reporting process continues to be effective, that we get good technical inputs into it, and that we make sure that we increase engagement over that time with the technical points of contact, program managers, and others that you're all working with. We have some success stories in those spaces. We also have some spaces that we can definitely improve. And this is one piece of a multi-pronged effort to increase engagement, increase training, hopefully clarify expectations once you have a NEUP award about what our expectations are and how we can make everyone successful. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that this meeting particularly is on reporting and reporting requirements. The folks that are going to run you through that, Jeremy, Crystal, Dave, Tara, that's the space that they work in. And I just wanted to give a quick update before we got started on FY 2025 and FY 2026 NEUP as a general program, and what our status is there. This group won't be entertaining questions in those spaces. And so if you have any questions about the status of your current FY 2025 proposals or the release of the FY 2026 funding opportunities, please reach out to me directly. I will put my email address here in the chat. I think most of you have it either way, but please reach out to me directly, and I'll provide the same information that I'll provide you today here about our status. So for FY 2025 awards and for FY 2026 funding opportunities, we still are going through a final review process for the FY 2025 funding opportunities. We don't currently have a timeline on when that review process is going to conclude, but our commitment is for everybody that applied and to the general NEUP community. We will be communicating both to individual participants and to the broader community through our official channels as we finalize that review process. For FY 2026, we are making efforts to get those funding opportunities released as soon as we can. They are also under review in that space, and we're pushing to get those out as quickly as we can. One space that I'll mention in that is that we are cognizant as these delays take place that we'll have to adjust schedules to make sure that we give all of you appropriate time to apply, and that we give DOE overall enough time to evaluate those proposals as they come in. So that's a shifting landscape that we're waiting for final approvals for as well.
Also, we could add an image of a scan to illustrate this.
I'd just like to remind everybody to mute your. With that, that's all that I have to talk about for FY 2025, FY 2026. And I'll turn time back over to Jeremy to get things started with the presentation. Like I said, I'll leave my email in the chat. If you have any questions regarding any of the FY 2025 or FY 26 actions, please reach out to me by email. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you, Drew. Crystal, if you'll pull up the PowerPoint and go to the agenda slide, we can begin. As we're getting started, I do want to remind everybody that Participants on this call are going to have varying experience levels. We try our best not to get too bogged down into the details for those that have a lot of experience. We hope it'll still be useful for people with a lot of experience, just to hit on some changes that we've had over the last couple of years, or remind you of things that you might not know. We also want to make sure that this is useful for new PIs in the NEUP space. If we don't go into enough detail and you'd like more information, feel free to ask us at the end of the presentation. We'll be answering questions for as long as we can afterwards. But even more so, you can reach out to me or anybody on this in our group, and we'd be happy to walk you through it. As slowly or as in much detail that would be useful. Like I said, we definitely want to make sure that everybody has a successful project, and part of that is making sure that we do everything we can to answer your questions. So for the agenda, we'll briefly touch very lightly on the mission, federal stewardship, and ASAP payments. Then we'll be talking about report overview, just to give an idea of what all reports are due, which should be included in all the final documentation that you get when the award is made. We'll talk about normal modifications that not almost all NEUPs, but quite a few NEUP awards have. That includes PI move requests, the changes to co-PI, budget modifications, no-cost time extensions, award administration, and hopefully ultimately a successful closeout at the end of the project. We'll also provide a slide with all the contact information for the people that spoke today, and this video and the PowerPoint itself will both be available on the NEUP site to download and to review if at a later date when reporting becomes necessary. Next slide, please. So the four keys to what the Office of Nuclear Energy does: we keep the U.S. nuclear reactor fleet operational. We deploy new nuclear reactors, and we secure and sustain our nuclear fuel cycle, and we expand international nuclear energy cooperation. And the NEUP program in itself is an extension of those four primary goals that the Office of Nuclear Energy has. Next slide. The NEUP program itself and the University Nuclear Leadership Program started in 2009. It was to increase research and to prove all the areas that I mentioned before that our mission falls under. It's been a tremendous success from our point of view. There's been more than $1 billion put into nuclear research, and the overwhelming majority of the projects have been successful in gaining knowledge in these areas. Next slide. Federal stewardship is a primary goal of mine and our team. We want to make sure that the taxpayer dollars that go towards this are used both legally and efficiently, and hopefully effectively. We review performance and financial reports. Those are necessary not to bog you down with paperwork, but to make sure that what was proposed is what's being done. Part of stewardship is providing technical assistance or temporary intervention in unusual circumstances to correct deficiencies. That's the last thing we want to do, but it is a tool in our toolbox to make sure that the projects are successfully using taxpayer dollars and on a milestone trajectory to be successful. We want to assure compliances with terms and conditions. This is not only useful for the PIs to make sure the projects are successful, but it's a legal requirement that we take very seriously. We review overall performance after project completion to see if there's things that either those projects could have done better or we could have done better to make sure that future applicants and awardees may have an easier time in working in the NEUP sector. I've been working with NEUP since 2014. I've seen a number of changes that have taken place to the projects. Lots of those have come from interaction between the PIs and ourselves to know how to do modifications better and more seamlessly. I can think of one of the areas that has been a substantial change is automatic yearly renewals and going from quarterly reports to biannual reports. Not all NEUP awards have transitioned to that, but I see those as areas of great improvement, not only for the PIs and paperwork, but for us and seeing higher levels of efficiency. And then this is not something that is done every time, but obviously conducting site visits is another tool in our toolbox that we may use if necessary. Next slide. And then the last thing I'll talk about before turning it over to Dave is ASAP payments. I'm fairly confident most people on this call are familiar with ASAP payments. It's useful in these projects to be able to draw down funds when necessary. Advanced requests can be submitted as frequently as required. This is to make your projects more efficient as being able to pull down funds when you need them and not necessarily have to worry about tracking those if those funds aren't necessary yet. Any interest that is created from putting these in interest-bearing funds are funds that would need to be paid back to the government. So timely drawdowns can be beneficial in not having to worry about paying back interest. And then payments will be made through electronic transfers only. I think everybody is happy with that. It just makes it more streamlined for everyone. Once you have a user ID in the system and are able to draw down funds from the Treasury, it makes it pretty almost instantaneous for those funds, which can be critical when days matter. Hopefully that's somewhat useful. I will be staying on the call to answer any questions at the end. Dave, would you like to start and we can move on to the next slide? Thank you.
Yes, good morning to everyone who's attending. I'm going to focus primarily on the technical reporting. As you can see, there's a list of reports listed on this slide. Particularly, I'm focused on the progress reporting, or the RPPR, and the quad charts, which are due semi-annually for your projects. And included in this is also the final report for your project, which will be due 90 days after the end of your project. All these other reports are the standard, more financially related or data management that will be handled through the DOAID procurement folks. Tara Hawk might be able to provide more answers to questions on those. But if you do have questions, I can point you in the right direction. So today I'm just going to give kind of a high-level overview of the RPPR reporting. Next slide, please. So the RPPR, which consists, it is a Microsoft Excel template consisting of 8 tabs, and this requires fully complete and distribution to those listed on this page here. I'll note that your specific project will have a federal manager and a technical project officer assigned to your project. The cover page of your RPPR will have these addresses listed, as well as your award number and the title or subject line for the submittals. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, this is a Microsoft Excel template. Some of you attending may already be familiar with this. It consists of 8 tabs, starting with a cover page, and we have accomplishments, products, students, information, impacts, uh, issues and concerns, and costs and schedule status, and then lastly, project outcomes. Today, we're just kind of highlighting some areas where we see the most, well, I guess we'll call them issues with completion of RPPR reports. So it's really important to focus on these sections and make sure they're complete. And obviously, under accomplishments, DOE wants to know what, not to be glib, but what you've accomplished in this last reporting period. There are times where a PI will just submit a blank, this section is blank, which is not helpful in our reporting, and it results in incomplete reporting. And then we have to go back to try to get you to submit complete reports. Likewise, on the accomplishments tab, what are you going to do in the next period for these accomplishments? So just keep this in mind, that an overall theme here is that we want you to be as complete as possible in your reporting. We've also listed the products page. This is where this tab is where you'd enter any publications, papers, inventions, patents, things like that. But just make sure when you're entering that information that it is complete, including the authors, submittal dates, and what have you. Lastly, on this page, we're going to highlight the changes and problems. No project goes perfectly, and we always encounter some issues. And so this tab of the RPPR allows you to convey to DOE any issues you ran into and what plans you have to mitigate those issues. Next slide, please. These are some screen captures of portions of the RPPR. Not a lot to say here other than we have the cover page, and the on the left side of the screen you see this is from the accomplishments tab, and then lower right is the cost and schedule status tab. Next slide, please. So of all sections of the RPPR, this is where we see the most issues. And this section is highly formula based to tailor the RPPR to your project's milestones that you've set up at the beginning of the project. And so really what we're doing here is we're giving you the tool to update your milestones to report to DOE. And I'll stress, I can't stress this enough. Please read there's instructions that are distributed with the RPPR. All of this information that I'm discussing today is listed in detail in those instructions. And if you read through those, you shouldn't have any issues. But if you do, like Jeremy mentioned, please feel free to reach out. I'm willing to set up a Teams meeting to run through this if you have any questions. Just to give a high level run through this cost and schedule status tab, basically you see in the upper right quad of this slide, on the leftmost columns, list your milestones. And then in column F, there's a milestone status. And if it reads on schedule and it's green, there's no further action for you to do. There's nothing to do. You can ignore those. But if you see update needed, that's where you need to provide the appropriate status of the milestone. And the way you do this is there's a drop-down menu in column F to select either complete or, and if it is complete, you'll need to provide a report that demonstrates that completion. Next slide, please. If I'll just finish up and now I need to stress this as well. When you complete a milestone, the reason we need a report is because DOE requires that in their tracking system. So if you submit an RPPR and mark a milestone as complete, but do not provide a report, we cannot update the DOE tracking system without it. And then we have to mark the milestone as late until we receive that report. So again, any questions on that, please reach out to me or Crystal, and we can help you work through that. There's just a couple other scenarios. If your milestone is not complete and it is due, then you must select either expected late or late and update the percent complete in column L and a revised finish date in column K and a narrative explaining why the milestone is late in column P. Again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but please just read through the instructions and reach out to me if you have any questions. And lastly, once you've updated all of your milestones, scroll to the bottom of the page to the cost variance explanation section. If it's highlighted yellow, that means you have a cost variance and we need a short narrative explaining why the project is not spending according to plan.
Dave,
Next, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There was a question that came up on the chat that I thought right now would be a good time to answer. It's being asked, what is the deadline for the next semi-annual report? Which I know is a difficult question to answer because different project years are in different cycles, but could you elaborate a little bit?
Absolutely, yes. So currently we have 2 fiscal years worth of NEUP awards that report semi-annually, and they're on different schedules, unfortunately. So if you have an FY23 award, so you can see at the top of this quad chart, it starts with the project number being 24-12345. So if your project number begins with 23, you're reporting on a fiscal year cycle. So that means the first cycle goes from October through March. And so that cycle is already reported for this year. So the next one for the FY23 awards will cover April through September. And you have 30 days after the end of that reporting period. And so those reports will be due October 30th. Alternatively, if you have an FY24 award, those awards were aligned with the performance starting in August. So their reporting period starts in August and goes through January 31st of the following year. So the next round of reporting for the FY24 reports or projects will open up actually in 2 weeks. So the end of the second semi-annual reporting for the FY24 awards covers February through July. That's 6 months. So the reporting opens up in August with the reports being due on August 30th. I hope that helps. It's a little complicated. And of course, as you mentioned, there are still older projects that report on a quarterly basis. I hope that answers the question. And we're on the quad chart. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this. There are detailed instructions that come along with the quad chart. For those of you who have been reporting for previous years, this is going to look a little different, and that's because we've added some fields to make the quad chart more informative for the federal team that's responsible for stewardship of your project. So if there's any questions, please reach out to us on these, and we'll answer your questions as best we can. Next slide, please. And I'm gonna turn it over to Tara. Thank you.
Hello. Good job on that, Dave. So I am Tara Hawk, and I am at COEID. I handle awards management and award modifications such as PI changes. And so here's the slide that goes over that. With the PI changes, the lead university will ask for it. Occasionally we have PI change from one university to another. It's kind of new that we're allowing that. The slide doesn't detail a lot about what needs to be done. There's kind of a big punch list, so if that happens, just reach out to us. But there's things like we'll need to close out the other award, DEOB, REOB, and et cetera. So that one's a little more involved, but it can now be done. Next slide, please. When PI changes do occur, co-PI changes, et cetera, the request needs to be on university letterhead, and the CV for the proposed new PI or co-PI needs to be included in the request. And then we'll get those to all of the individuals that need to approve it and get that in place. Next slide, please. We can go ahead and skip this one, kind of already covered it. Next slide, please. Again, covered that mostly. So this is just details about how to do it. And next. Next. Mine's quick and easy. Okay, now budget modifications are also relatively simple and straightforward, and the instructions are in these slides. Transfer of funds and subawards, new subawards, transfer of subawards, all of those things can be done. New equipment, they just need to be requested with the proper documentation. We'll need updated spreadsheets, quotes for new equipment, justifications, etc. Next slide. Bounce right on down to the NCEs. All of this is good information for all of you to track and go through, but we don't need to go through all of it today together. Next. Next. Thanks, Crystal. Next. Or whoever's running it. And now we come down to no cost extensions. So each award is eligible for one no cost extension of up to 12 months. We do oftentimes advise the full 12 months because, say, another snag comes up, then you've already requested your allowed one NCE and it was considered fulfilled. So if you're confident that you can complete the project in 3 months or 6 months, then that's great. We're all for it. If you feel there's any doubts that there could be any other supply chain issues, personnel issues, anything that's causing the request for the no cost extension, we will usually advise the full 12 months. It saves time on our procurement, it saves time for you on all of the approvals and updating and new modifications. If you ask for 12 months and you don't need 12 months, you can just ask for the award to be closed out. If your project is complete, you just let us know and we'll let you submit all of the closeout documents, the final reports, etc. No harm, no foul, no penalties. So that's it, I think. Next slide, please. And this, again, there's a form and you can always reach out to us. This form is located at the NEUP at neup.inl.gov. And again, you can always reach out to Crystal or I, and we'll get you the right form if you're having problems. Some people have problems getting that form, so just reach out to us. Next slide. And that is it for me. So nice to meet you. And if you have questions, any other award questions, reach out to me. And if I cannot assist, I will find you the person that can. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Crystal Sasala, and I work in the NE integration office, working with awards management. So many of you have probably had an email from me concerning reporting. But I just want to go over, first slide I have is award administration. Now, this isn't my area of expertise, so I'm not able to answer a lot of questions on this. So we'll just go over relatively quickly about the administration. So if you have questions about equipment, title to equipment vests with the recipient. If the equipment is no longer needed, you must request disposition instructions from the government. Supplies, same title vests with the recipient, but if you have a residual inventory exceeding 5,000 once the award is complete, then the recipient must compensate the government accordingly. So final incurred cost audit, DOE reserves the right to initiate that final audit if need be. So closeout, we really kind of wanted to focus on this aspect for this presentation. The guidance, you will have received the DOE form 4600.2. If you look that over, it has all of the reporting requirements that are needed for closeout of your award. And you can also look at the frequency and the address. All of that information is listed there. So really, what I want to emphasize is this is your go-to form. If you have questions beyond that, please feel free to contact us. There's also, as you see on the slide, there's a awardee resources page on our NEUP website that can give you a little bit more information, a little more detail. But again, please feel free to contact us with any questions concerning closeout. And for final reports, so this is very near and dear to our hearts because this is a report that we absolutely have to have. As Dave Bates talked about earlier, the final report is due 90 days after completion of the award. So you have 90 days to finalize that and get it ready. There's no required format for the report, but we do need these bullets. We need a comprehensive summary. We really need to have complete descriptions of the efforts. And if it's not complete or whatever unforeseen reason, we need that fully documented and explained. So they can also, the reports need to also include a brief abstract of the report, a full statement of objective description of the effort and the accomplishments, a list of publications, a final quad chart, and any other relevant information. So your when you finalize the project, at that time, we need a final RPPR report and a final quad chart. 90 days later, we need this final report. So again, that's the 90 days. And it can take the place of the quarterly report if you finalize that a little bit early. And it is also required, that final report is required to be submitted to OSTE, but also it needs to be submitted to all of the email addresses that you submit your quarterly or semi-annual reports to. We need to get that also. So each one of those email addresses needs to have your final report. I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is what the awardee resources page looks like on our new NEUP website. This is great information here. And I just wanted to give you a glance at it. If you have questions, Andrew Ford is the federal contracting officer. Tara spoke a little bit earlier, so she does support service specialist. She is a wonderful resource for all of those NCE budget modification changes any of that information. Dave Bates for the PICS-NE support. Dave, again, wonderful resource. But he deals mainly with PICS reports. So if you have questions about NCEs and budget modifications, please address them to Tara. Again, my name is Crystal Sasala. We have awards maintenance, but we now call that awards management. So that is one of my roles in the NEIO office, and I am happy to answer any questions or direct you to the people who are best suited to answer. And so that is it for our slide presentation. Jeremy, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Crystal.
I just want to add, sorry, real quick. I just want to add, I'm also a resource for reporting questions outside of PICS, like Dave had mentioned. So just to cover that here in the end, I can answer frequency questions where you can find templates, etc. So I can also help you all on reporting questions. So there you go. Now to you, Jeremy.
Thank you so much, Tara. Again, like I said earlier, our team really wants to do everything we can to empower you and make sure your projects are successful. We want to make sure the federal guidelines are followed, but we'll do everything in our power to make that easy for you and go over any questions that you may have. Hopefully that results in a successful project and everybody wins, from your universities to Office of Nuclear Energy and even the taxpayer. There has been a significant push to make sure that we bring all projects into compliance. So these reports are not these reports are required. And even though we're tracking hundreds of projects with thousands of reports due, it may take us a little while to find missing reports, but we will be reaching out to entities that are not submitting reports. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully you can be proactive and let us know if there's something that's a stumbling block, or you're missing something or don't understand something. Failure to comply with federal law could result in current projects being frozen and or future projects being denied. And we don't want it to come to that. We want all these projects to be successful. That's the reasons they were awarded. We think these are the best of the best, and we think these PIs are the best people to lead those efforts. So the overwhelming majority of everybody submits reports timely and usually lets us know if there's a problem. But I know with new projects and new PIs, sometimes there's a hesitation to reach out and say something's not understood. And I want to encourage everybody to pick up a phone or email us if you have questions, because we trust us, there won't be a question that we haven't heard before. And if we don't have an answer, we'll find it for you. Now we have a little bit of time to answer any questions. There doesn't appear to be any in the chat that we haven't answered yet. Oh, we just had one come in. Two questions. If a minor deliverable such as a slide deck according to approved work package is scheduled to be completed earlier than the semi-annual report due on 8/31/2025, in my case, should we submit the minor deliverable earlier, separate, or together with the semi-annual report? Let's start with that question. How would you recommend that they move forward if the dates are different like that?
You want me to take that, Crystal?
Feel free.
Okay. Okay. So, as mentioned, I didn't mention this myself, but just pointed out that I operate the PICS system, and when I mentioned that DOE's management system, that's what I was referring to. So you have two options in regards to milestone reports that are completed during a reporting period. So option one is that you just submit them as they are completed, and you make sure you submit them to the addresses listed on the cover page of the RPPR. That's the ideal, really. It gets it off your plate. It kind of gives DOE real-time reporting, but at the same time, we don't want to burden you too much with having to keep up with that. So you also have the option of submitting those milestone reports along with your semi-annual or quarterly reporting. So for example, if you have an FY24 project, you had a milestone that was due that you completed in April, you could have sent it in April. You can send it right now if you want, or you can wait until the August 30th deadline and submit it along with your RPPR and quad charts. I see a second question from Angela regarding incorporating graphs or plots into the semi-annual report. So this would fall under the accomplishments tab, and unfortunately, all we have the ability to capture in the RPPR is narrative text. However, you can produce an addendum to the RPPR. Say if you have some figures or graphs, tables that you want to reference in the accomplishments section, you can create a PDF or whatever format, either a Microsoft project or product or a PDF along with your reporting, and we can get that into the system for DOE to review. And I encourage that because it's hard to convey things. I know just through text, right? It's important it's powerful, I should say, to have images such as figures and graphs and whatnot. So I hope that helps with the second question for Angela.
Thank you, Dave. If anybody has questions, feel free to put them in the chat. You can also try to raise your hand with the hand function at the top of Teams. Here, it seems like we got another question. Thanks for the presentation. Question number 1, when we have a journal/conference paper accepted, should we attach OSDI submission confirmation together with the paper in the semi-annual report?
I can take that one. It is not required or necessary. So with it is required and requested that you submit those journal and conference papers to us, and we appreciate that. And it is needed and appreciated, but you do not need to submit it with the semi-annual reports. You can do that.
Thank you, Tara.
If you do, it's okay, but it's not necessary.
And then the second part is, if graduating PhD students is listed as a deliverable, shall we submit the complete PhD thesis in the report or just the abstract, since the thesis may be very long?
Unfortunately, I think maybe that's a Rachel or Andrew question.
I would say I've been a contracting officer for a long time before this. I would say that the abstract would probably be good enough. Obviously, a thesis can be considerable amount of pages and work. I think the abstract would be enough to complete the report and have a better idea of how the deliverable is met.
And the abstract does give us the information we need for the deliverable. So that's perfectly okay. Like Jeremy said, the full thesis is pretty long. The abstract will meet the requirement.
Another thing that I would like to mention, Drew, you can add on to this, or feel free not to if not. One of the things that our team is working on is our NRDS project, where we would like to work towards having more data from these projects be publishable and available for download and review. And that is not any day now, but is a long-term project that we hope to get towards. So deliverables and data and metadata that is generated from these projects is useful. And while the abstract is not require, or the abstract would be better than the full thesis for this measure. We do plan on having more extensive data management plans, and those data management plans will capture a lot of this data that is too large for what we are the files we use right now. So ultimately, the metadata and the thesis and any information that's collected from this during the process of performing these projects will be useful down the road when we get it up and running. Drew, would you like to add anything to that?
I would, because I was going down that same road. So thanks for the opportunity. We are currently getting a structure put in place for the ability for university PIs to sign on to what you could think of as the back end of the nuclear research data system. And that will allow you, without releasing the data, to actually upload your data, other scientific and technical products like theses and other things like that, into that system. And so that's all being piloted right now. That's all on a voluntary basis. But if there are folks on this call that are looking for, a place to put their data, we're trying to create that solution. And I would love to hear from you if you'd like to volunteer as a participant in those spaces. The idea there would be you upload it as you finish an experiment or something else like that. And then there's a way to list out embargo dates for all of that data so that it doesn't get released until after you're able to publish on it or after students are able to publish on it. And so I think it's going to be a solution that will work, but we're looking for volunteers. And so long term, it will likely be something that we'll be directing people to do in future funding opportunities, but all on a volunteer basis today. But we'd love to have some participation if folks are interested.
Thank you, Drew. Another question's come in for no cost extension requests. Will our national laboratory collaborators automatically get the extension as well?
So it is not automatic. It is included, and the NCE does have to come from the university, the original awardee. But then all subawards, subcontracts are included in that NCE, but the subs do need to reach out to Kendall Kincaid, and he does that end of it. I've included his email address here. You can reach out to me and I'll get Kendall involved for you, and then you can CC me if you send it direct to Kendall, and he'll work with you on getting the MPOs and the subs NCEs in place.
Thank you, Tara. Are there any other questions? If during the course of the project, there's a need to reallocate budget from a GRA to a research engineer, would this require the submission of a re-budget request? My understanding, Tara, is that if it's less than 10% in a line area, that there's no formal request that's required, but I may be incorrect. Is that correct?
That is correct. Anything under 10%, it doesn't require any formal request or approval. It might not hurt to just throw out an email, but it is not required.
Thank you.
Sorry, I should add, throw out an email to your CS, and again, or me, and I will get it to your CS, but nothing is required on that if it's under 10%.
Any other questions? Well, I would like to thank everybody. I know everybody's busy, and to take this time to listen to our presentation and to ask any questions you have. I do want to reiterate that there's a cap on how many NEUP projects a PI can have, and we cannot close out projects if we don't have mandatory reports that are required. We'll do everything in our power to help get those done, but we've seen it happen more than once where a report early in the project gets missed. The project goes on for 3 years, and then getting that paperwork from 3 years ago becomes very messy and difficult, especially if there's been changes in the staff. So all I can do is encourage everybody to be proactive and ask questions and try to meet the deadlines as best they can. We certainly understand things come up, and we'll work with you if we can. But if it's additional information you need or some sort of help, please reach out. Another question is there a maximum number of awards for a PI that you reference? I believe it's 3 right now. And again, if you're at 3 awards and there's an award that's not closed out from 4 years ago because it's missing 1 report, it's unfortunate, but we're not going to be able to award another project, which could mean an entire year in lapse or multiple years in lapse until the next project could be funded. And it's a real shame if the information is available and it's just because of a missing report. So we want to do everything we can to get those in on time. Well, I want to thank Crystal, Dave, Tara, and Drew for your time today. We'll be here if you have any questions. I'll give everybody the remainder of your time back, and have a great day. Thank you.